Views and opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium.
Land of the free, it lies the home of the homeless. Too many die every day, and we really just want this freedom.
Good evening and welcome to this live broadcast and podcast of New Abolitionists Radio. Today's date is February the 16th, 2020 on this Sunday night. We want to thank you all for joining us. If you were just listening to Time for Awakening Radio on the Black Talk Radio Network, remember you could check them out every Sunday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, as well as on Friday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. That's Time for Awakening. You can also check them out at timefораwakening.com. We do have a pretty, I would say, encouraging program for you tonight. We will be joined by one of our rotating co-hosts, Mr. Maxwell Melvins of the Lifers Group. He'll be joining us tonight. Of course, Maxwell is based out of New Jersey, and we have some good news coming out of New Jersey with two measures and perhaps even a third measure that Maxwell will talk about. But these measures to help people who are parolees, those people out of prison that's on parole, but it'll mainly help them, but as well as the community in terms of prison gerrymandering. And we'll get into the details of what prison gerrymandering is for those that don't know. But, you know, these measures were signed into law here recently by New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. And just some brief information before we bring Maxwell on to give us the details. But these measures will make it easier for those convicted of low-level drug offenses to expunge their so-called criminal records. Another one is going to allow the citizens that's on parole or probation to vote. As we know, many people in that status, that have that felony status, are prohibited from voting. And we have, seen some victories in different states where grassroots efforts, often organized by the prisoners themselves or former prisoners, have resulted in states, restoring those parolees' right to vote back. So you're definitely looking forward to hearing from Maxwell on that. Also got some information to share. The advocates for prisoners' human rights are calling on the community to start organizing solidarity events from August the 21st. And many of us in the struggle know August is Black August, but it'll be from August the 21st to September the 9th. And these events are to amplify the cause for human rights for prisoners. And I'll share the message that was disseminated from the prisoner human rights movement. But also, after that, I want to point out that concerning prisoner human rights demands, that came out of the 2018 National Prisoner Strike. And for those that remember that, many of those demands are part of Bernie Sanders' Justice and Safety for All platform, and that specific section is titled Prisoners' Bill of Rights. And after victories in Iowa and New Hampshire, Sanders heads towards this Super Tuesday as a front runner, and no other candidate nor President Donald Trump. And I would say in the history of candidates, except for before 1865, but thereafter, there's never been a POTUS candidate that has a prisoner's Bill of Rights as part of their platform. And that that Bill of Rights will restore their human rights, their constitutional rights of prisoners in the United States. But what was kind of strange to me is that not many prisoner advocacy groups that I follow on social media, as they put out great information, but I don't see them organizing around this presidential election. Look, you don't have to support the same candidate that I support in Bernie Sanders, but he's the only one with a prisoner Bill of Rights. But every 4 years, well, really every 2 years, we have an election. But every 4 years is the presidential election. And it's all eyes on that process, and a lot of people paying attention. So we should be lifting up human rights, whether that's infiltrating these town halls. And let me not put it in the terms of infiltrating, because many of us are citizens and we have a right to be there and present our issues just as much as anybody else that attends these town halls. But we need to be organizing and going to these town halls, no matter who's sponsoring them, CNN, CBS, NPR, MSNBC. If it's open to the public, then we need to make sure we get our people in there, and more importantly, raise the issue. And I don't care if it's in the form of a protest, if they won't pick none of us to ask the question, which they do that ahead of time. But like we see, some of these groups, they will go in there where these candidates is speaking, and then they'll just start protesting right there, with their organized chants and what have you. But now is a good time to be raising the issue of prisoner human rights around these presidential campaigns, and we should be organizing especially if we're in prison, our family members. I once heard somebody give me an estimate that family members of the 2 point however many million people that's in prison and jail, but if you include their family members, that swells to 8 million people. Now, some of those may be children, but let's just say half of that 8 million are friends and family members, and they're adults and they can vote. Then they need to be organizing around this issue during election season, not just at the presidential or the federal level, but also at the state level and also at the local level. And that's why I'm saying that tonight is an encouraging program, getting this news from Maxwell, because he's been a part, of organizing in New Jersey to get these reforms in place, which I feel are very important, because I feel like politics controls every people activity area in the United States. And now that's more prisoners that can vote for candidates that's going to not just give us lip service around issues, but actually pass legislation like Murphy has done. So let's bring in Maxwell. Maxwell, good to hear from you, bro.
Yeah, how you doing, Brother Scotty? How you doing? How's everyone doing? As you know, I've been gone for a while, just saying it's out there for our listeners in case they wonder what had happened to me. I had a major surgery, and, I'm back now, and, I'm not just back, but I'm back with a lot of good information, coming out of New Jersey, dealing with this criminal justice system, it's mass incarceration, and some of the great bills, that have been signed by Governor Murphy, who's been in office for 2 years. He's been in office, and I would say, coming from me, he's been one of the strongest governors in this state in the last 30 years. A lot of the bills that's going up right now that he's been signing isn't bills that have just come out. They've been working on these bills for years and years and years, but he's been the only one to come forward to pass some of these very historic bills, which is one of the leading ones is the restoring of votes amongst people who are currently on
Hey, I'm sorry, Maxwell.
in New Jersey, more than 80,000 people.
Maxwell, if you could start over. I'm sorry, just that last 10 seconds. We had some technical issues and we couldn't hear you clearly, but you were talking about this historic legislation in terms of New Jersey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what I mean is very historic because as of 1844, the year of 1844, all those rights were taken from anyone that was incarcerated, locked up for something. Once you were locked up, all your voting rights and things were taken from you. And Governor Murphy, as I said, who's only been in office for 2 years, and in these 2 years, the legislation, as it affects those in New Jersey, no one else has been willing to do it and to sign these very historic bills, and like in the criminal justice system. And this governor has not just been of lip service. This man has actually, put his money where his mouth is. And, there's more than, as I said, 80,000 in the state of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. All of our voting rights were restored and will take effect on March the 1st. As an ex-offender, I will be able to go into a voting booth and vote. I'm not just talking for the presidency. I'm talking about from any office or whatever. I will be able to go in there, and hit that voting machine.
Maxwell, it seems that I read that one of the reform measures he just signed into place, that at first the legislature tried to attach some kind of poison pill to it or something, and he sent it back.
Yes. Well, they're always trying to, a lot of times they want them to go in, a lot of them, sometimes Republicans or whoever, will go back in and they will say, look, there's, X, Y, Z. They try to sugarcoat it and put little loopholes and technicalities. Meaning, for example, in one state, I believe it was, I don't know if it was California. Well, yes, they restored. No, that was in
Florida.
In Florida, they had restored all those rights back to the people, but they wanted them to go back in and rewrite that bill. And what they did in rewriting that bill is made attachments of you cannot have those rights restored unless all your fines are paid off. Then you would be able to, vote. And so what they were actually doing, they weren't, in Florida, for example, they weren't really signing a bill, with no strings attached. Actually, because most of the brothers and the people out there would not be able to pay off some of these fines, because the longer fines, they put all types of attachments,
Specifically, the first piece of legislation, the politicians didn't even have a hand in. The prisoners, certain states, and unfortunately North Carolina isn't one of them, but in Florida, if you get enough signatures, you can put something on the ballot. And that's what the prisoners in Florida organized, and they was able to get enough signatures, and then it passed by, the people of Florida voted on it, passed it. And then here come the Republicans, but, we ain't partisan. Could have been some Democrats that voted along with them, to then try to make them put a poll tax basically on them before they could vote.
Yeah, because the longer you don't pay a fine, there are surcharges on those fines. They have all types of attachments on that. So therefore, that bill, just again, for the example of Florida, that bill, it wouldn't have been really a bill that was assigned because they're not restored unless that, and we know there's all types of barriers and that most people do not have the finances to pay those fines. So in actuality, it was a good step, yes, but, I'm just giving, but in New Jersey, there was no strings attached to this. As of March 1st, again, all people who are currently on parole and probation will be able to vote. And what that means is, as we spoke about earlier, there, Brother Scotty, that those family members have family members who has family members who has friends. And that means a lot, because we have all been affected by the criminal justice system, not just us, but our families. And also, when you're returning from prison, Scotty, sometimes, there's all types of, there's more than 80,000 different barriers, prohibiting you from being able to do many things. So when I say this historic one in New Jersey, to me, it was very historic because there are no strings attached in this particular bill. You understand?
Yeah. Now, was it that bill or a different bill that they tried to attach the poison pill? Because you mentioned at least 3 different, pretty significant things that he signed into law. Was it that one or a different one that they tried to attach?
Well, they have on a lot of them.
Okay.
They have tried to attach all these different strings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were passed without any strings attached. That's why I say, yes, we have other governors in other states that are signing off on things, but it's kind of like, they're being signed, but there's attachments to them,
Mm-hmm.
But in New Jersey, there was no attachments to this. Well, for example, if he pays off his fines, X, Y, Z, then he will become, eligible to vote. And that means a lot, Brother Scotty, with all these people that are on probation and parole to be able to go out there and actually vote. And yes, it means a lot.
Maxwell, let me ask you a question now. I know the answer, and I know you know the answer, but I'm just, saying it for the listening audience because we got some people out there, and it's their right. I'm not trying to mock them or denigrate them.
Yeah.
I just have a different point of view. But it seems to me that voting in this sort of system is pretty important, or they wouldn't seek to prohibit so many or take so many people's voting rights away. You mentioned 80,000 possibly will be able to vote that couldn't vote before, which will be effective on March the 1st. There have been elections that have been decided by less than 80,000 votes.
Exactly. Yes, Brother Scotty. Exactly. And, as I said, this is very, Brother Scotty, I never thought in this lifetime that I would be able to go into a voting machine and have the opportunity to vote. But it also shows me, it gives it more meaning since we're out here and those of us that are working or who are working and stuff, and you're a taxpayer, you should have all those rights restored to you. You're a taxpayer. Right? Why shouldn't you be able to vote, to go in there and decide, who's going to make these decisions and make this policy?
Right. They didn't strip you of your citizenship, so how can they strip you of your right to vote? You're not a citizen, really, if you can't vote, but you paying taxes. That just means that I don't know what to call you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but no, I'm going to tell you what you call it. As you just said, it doesn't make us what? A citizen, right? And
right.
You're absolutely right, because citizens have the right to do many things, and that goes to show you that was a barrier, a major one. Because look at it. You say you don't know what to call it. You call it as you see it. You were not ex-offenders, and current were not considered to be citizens. The system and most people out there look at us as beasts and animals, and people in their heartless people, cruel and cold, and that's how, we're looked upon.
I know the word I was looking for, the phrase. It's called, and they started something called the American Revolution over it. They say it, taxation without representation. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly, Brother Scotty. And, but one of the other things you were speaking of earlier, you were talking about how people had to come together and to mobilize, to get out there, not just this election. You're saying that this was the most important. This is one of the most important elections in history. This election, and grassroots organizations and people such as myself should be out there also to mobilize and stabilize and get people to actually, something that people have sacrificed to get this bill passed, so that people should take the initiative, these community-based organizations and other people, to gather the people in the form of real campaign for all the brothers and sisters who are currently on parole and probation to really get out there.
And in prison.
And yes. No, in New Jersey, they will not be able to vote while they're in prison. They have
No,
to wait,
I'm just speaking in general terms of raising the issue of prisoner human rights.
Yes. And the brothers that are still, the people that are still in prison who are incarcerated, is that will actually be able to vote. And what I mean by that, they have family members out there. So they will be able to encourage their families, their brothers, their sisters and nieces to register, to vote, and to get down there and hit those ballots. Yeah?
Maxwell, it was something else that you mentioned that kind of is a perfect segue to the right to vote. And this is 2020. You know, every 10 years, the United States government does a U.S. census where they count the population. That determines how many representatives you may have in Congress, how many, I think the number of senators is set, but the number of representatives that a state can have is based on its population numbers, but also how federal resources, well, really is your own money. You pay the taxes to the federal government, then the federal government decides where to dole out different grants and pay for stuff and give resources to certain communities. And so you mentioned there in New Jersey that Governor Phil Murphy did something to address prison gerrymandering, because that's where they count the prisoner not in their last address where they lived at before they were incarcerated, but where they are warehoused on a prison plantation, and then then their numbers are counting towards somebody else's community and not the community they come from. What did Governor Murphy do?
Well, actually, by him signing that bill, all right, look, you have in rural areas in New Jersey, for example, most of your biggest prisons are in the southern region of the state, right? And they're in these little small hick towns. And some of these towns would not even really exist if it weren't for the prisons being in there. There would not even be an economy in some of these towns, you know, in southern New Jersey. And what they were doing when they were taking the census, they were actually counting these individuals as, you know, belonging to that county, as they, you know, they lived there. And so that was actually taking money from their community. You know, actually, that's what it was doing by gerrymandering. That's what that meant.
Political representation.
Yes, exactly. And that's why a lot of people don't understand the importance of that. And while it was important, you know, most who don't understand just thought it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, you know. But it was very important, because now all that funding that was going into these rural areas where these prisons were will go back to those communities, and that money can be used in other forms and for other things that are seriously needed. You know. So,
another state, just to give a shout out to the grassroots activists and the people who made it happen in Virginia, because Virginia legislator just passed the same thing, another law that says, you know, that they're ending prison gerrymandering, and the prisoners will be counted in the community they come from and not as residents of the town where the prison is.
Yeah, yes, exactly that, Brother Scotty. So that's the importance of that right there. And as I said, this governor has been a very progressive governor. And in the last 30 years, right, I don't believe that any governor, in my opinion, and based off of the information I have, has made such a move in that many years. And he's only been in office 2 years. So I'm talking about he's dealing with real criminal justice issues. Their motto is New Jersey cares, you know, for the people. And this guy is demonstrating to me that it's really about the people, that is not about his allies. You know, I'm here to represent y'all, the people. And the reason I'm able to say that by him, it's not just words, as most politicians sometimes make promises and all these different promises. No, he's carrying out all these things that he about to make real change, and he has a full understanding of the disparity in the criminal justice system. The ratio in New Jersey is Latinos, you know, like brown and black, who are mostly affected by this. And, you know, that's it's clear. There's no way around it. New Jersey is the highest in the nation. There, Brother Scotty, as far as the disparity in the criminal justice system, where most blacks and Latinos are sentenced at a higher rate
non-white people
than non-whites. Yes, and it's undeniable, and that most were affected by these, by all these other laws, that have went into effect. I mean, so many, Brother Scotty, some of them too numerous to mention,
Well, there's one more that I would like to mention. I'd like for us to discuss, because I think it's important as well. But one of the other things that Governor Murphy signed into law is to make it easier for those convicted of low-level drug offenses. Now, and then we're not just talking about marijuana. It could be crack. It could be meth. You're an addict. And that's what's considered a low-level drug offense, and he's going to make it easier for them to expunge their records, which is important when you're trying to get housing, when you're trying to get loans, whether it's student loans, a car loan, a home loan, it just really, that criminal record can really affect you, even though it was a low-level offense and you're getting some kingpin.
It's still an offense just having it. It's still an offense a lot of times, and it prohibits you from, as I said, it's more than 80,000 roadblocks and barriers that are prohibiting you from doing a lot of things. And some people made actually a mistake or got caught up into something. And here you had this stamp on your head. You could not do anything just because of that low-level offense or anything. It held most back. And by holding them back and people not being able to get jobs and different things would most times cause people to do other things just to, to be able to get by and survive, to make a living, to take care of their kids, take care of their families, Now, and what would it do? It would cause them to possibly go out and do other things, sometimes to get it by any means necessary to get that money.
Now, in connection to that, I mentioned that he's going to make it easier to get those records expunged. Now, another barrier, just like the barrier Florida threw up for people with a felony, or on parole, not being able to vote, and they had to pay this money back. But it can be expensive trying to get your record expunged. And I heard that he's setting up something that can be done online, a process where you can go
automatically. He's reaching out for a company or someone to come up that would create an automatic system that would screen, by way of computer, and those people with such charges, for them to actually do it for you, because sometimes it becomes very complicated. All right, for example, we signed this bill, but then for this bill to be carried out and followed out, there's instructions of a specific way in which these things have to be carried out. And it's very difficult when trying to get your records expunged. It is crazy. It's not as simple as they make it look. It's not as simple as that. Now, has there been any policy, right now, as far as these bills? There has to be a policy in which way they have to inform, the ex-offenders and everybody, for example. All right, you have your writings back, but there has to be procedures put into place in which this to be carried out, like, for most things, So it's very important, just like in the voting, Brother Scotty, that bill. Now, as of March the 1st, do anyone know exactly what to do? Are the employees informed what procedures they should take, or any type of forms or anything that you need to fill out? That hasn't been fully expressed and written. It's an order, it's a command that they are to do that. But what procedure do you follow is one of the things that we're looking at right now. What exact procedures will I need, or steps that I need in order to be able to vote?
It seems to me, it shouldn't be complicated. The governor office gets with because here in North Carolina, I don't know about New Jersey, but you have like a state board of elections, and then you tell the state board of elections to reach out to the county electors and say, hey, you can't, you have to register these people. It don't matter if they got a criminal record or whatever, or they on parole. You have to register them. So hopefully it won't, it'll be that simple. It's no reason it shouldn't be.
I said he asked for that to be carried out. I believe it's going to be carried out. It's going to be carried out in which way? It's definitely going to be carried out. Again, from what I see of this governor, he's not of just lip service, And I'm going, again, by his actions, not his words, because he also did, Brother Scotty, is just signed another bill in which all fines are suspended from our juveniles and youth. All fines were suspended.
Wow.
To put a bill into law for that. All right? And they also signed a bill, Brother Scotty, that to create a special project dealing with the youthful criminal justice system, Mm-hmm. And what they did by that is in three different places, for example, in Newark, New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey, and Camden, New Jersey, the people came out. He wanted to know what were their opinions, and what did they want to hear, what did they want to do, about our juvenile youth. And he implemented all types of laws, again, Brother Scotty, it would be too far for me to try to go in all the things in which that means, right now.
Right.
And by him signing those bills. But they're very, he also signed the bill for the Women's Dignity Act, meaning if you're incarcerated, a woman, you will not be put into solitary confinement if you're pregnant. Also signed into law, instead of them charging women for their necessities in which to maintain themselves as far as the personal items, their hygiene, they had to pay for all that,
Mm-hmm.
And they supposed to be provided those things, so he signed that into law. Also in that same bill, that all officers will have to go to sensitive training programs. Also, that in that bill was signed that most people would have to be placed a certain distance and not away from their family so far, to keep them closest to their homes, because they send them, like, for example, Scotty, they can send you all the way up north from the south, which will make it very difficult for you to see your family,
Mm-hmm.
So instead of encouraging visits and everything, they were trying to deter it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to make most things by way of video conferencing and different things.
And that costs money in a lot of states.
And what it costed money, what did it do? It created an economy for these big companies that are running these things and has all that technology, to the video conferences, contracting with the DOC and, splitting the money. So that's why they were taking a lot of the contact visits, because what it was doing was creating another economy and another pocket for the DOCs to profit and for the big corporations to profit from, these people.
Yeah.
And, like as I said, Scotty, there's several bills, too far many to mention here, but all these, Scotty, pertains to juvenile justice reform, criminal justice reform, and parole. He's also in New Jersey. There's a procedure, Scotty. You go up for parole. You don't always get parole when you go up.
Right.
And they were holding people well over their time, not following their own rules and regulations and legislated that was, put into place. And you go up for parole, they might say, Brother Scotty, well, I don't think you're ready. I'm going to give you another 5-year hit.
Mm-hmm.
And you come back up to see us half the time of that, and they were denying people. He created an early release act where you can earn your way out.
And it's not up to a parole board.
No, you earn your way out by doing other things, and you demonstrate, and yes, earn your way out.
Because you know, a lot of problems with these parole boards across the nation is they stack them with former cops and law enforcement, or those are part of that family, and then also there's the prison slavery or the prison industrial complex aspect, just like profiting off of the video calls. I mean, it's profiting them to keep you in prison.
Yes, actually it is. For the big corporation, yes, it's very profitable to keep you in there. And some of the things that's being taken in prison, it's not by the DOC. Do you know what's actually being taken? Because it's actually being taken, the certain privileges that they have in there. You have these companies who have lobbyists to go out to certain politicians, right? And hit them off and say, yo, I need you to sponsor a bill. I need you to sponsor this bill right here. And it'll be a corporation like, right now they're giving all these
private prison lobbyists.
They're giving them these private tablets. They're giving them to them in some states. And when they're giving these tablets to them, the astronomical cost just to text your family and email your family is, oh man, so far behind. So again, it's not the DOC, and the first thing that they always come up with, anything that they could say, well, this is a security threat. They always try to use security. Right. It has nothing to do with security. It has to do with that dollar.
Yes, sir.
And that's
Let's take a station identification break. Before we hit the top of the hour. Our program's only an hour long. If we need to go over, we can go over, but we try to, be cautious with our time. But anyway, if anybody in the listening audience wants to call in and ask a question, make a comment. Maybe you live in New Jersey and you want to share some stories, or maybe you live in the state and you're working on these give us a call and share, your testimony with us. You can give us a call at 704, I should say 1-704-802-5056. That's 1-704-802-5056. 5056. We're going to take a short station identification break. When we come back on the other side, I want to share this communication that was sent out by different people who are part of the prisoner human rights movement. Again, they want to organize around lifting up prisoner human rights from August the 21st to September the 9th. But y'all know we do that every week here on New Abolitionist Radio, and as individuals, we doing that every day using social media. But we'll be back on the other side. Stay tuned.
Hi, the Black Talk Media Project would like to invite you to become a member of the BTR Community subscription-based social media platform. BTR Community is a platform that was set up for the listening audience of Black Talk Radio Network, the #1 independent Black radio network online. For just $24 per year, your subscription gives you access to an interactive space to share information with like-minded people with your privacy guaranteed. Your subscription will go a long way to help us maintain and improve our current media platforms. It will also help provide a budget so that we can begin the task of establishing localized media centers and radio stations across the United States. The best way to show your support and appreciation for what we do here at Black Talk Radio is to subscribe. Help us to help you be informed. Join btrcommunity.com today.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com. And welcome back to New Abolitionist Radio. We broadcast live every Sunday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. We have rotating hosts, so one week it might be Maxwell, one week it might be Tag, another week it might be Brother Tayson and Sister Khadijah. And hey, if you have some knowledge to share and you want to be a guest, just contact either one of us, and we'll definitely bring you on to share with the audience the things that you are working on. Now, I want to switch gears, and let me just share this information. Advocates for the prisoner human rights movement are calling on the community to start organizing solidarity events from August the 21st to September the 9th. So this is what they sent out. They said, to all in solidarity with the prisoner human rights movement, we are reaching out to those that have been amplifying our voices in the state, federal, or immigration jails and prisons, and to allies that uplifted the national prison strike demands in 2018. We call on you again to organize the communities from August the 21st to September the 9th, 2020, by hosting actions, events, and demonstrations that call for prisoner human rights and the end to prison slavery. We must remind the people and legal powers in this nation that prisoners' human rights are a priority. If we aren't moving forward, we're moving backward. For those of us in chains, backward is not an option. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Some people claim that prisoners' human rights have advanced since the last national prison strike in 2018. We strongly disagree, but due to prisoners organizing inside and allies organizing beyond the walls, solidarity with our movement has increased. The only reason we hear conversations referencing prison reforms in every political campaign today is because of the work of prison organizers and our allies. But as organizers in prison, we understand this is not enough. Just as quickly as we've gained ground, others are already funding projects and talking points to set back those advances. Our only way to hold our ground while moving forward is to remind people where we are and where we are headed. So that's the message from them. You have anything to add to that, Brother Maxwell? I know you're doing events all the time, man.
As we were saying, brother, we like these people to get out, to mobilize, to support these causes. It's very important right now that people, as you said, to sponsor and host some of these things, all these things that are taken to support prisoners' human rights. That is even signed in the Geneva Convention, one of the first priorities, signed in the Geneva Convention, Bill of Rights, is that human rights of prisoners, human rights. I mean, these are people that are going to be turning back out to society, Brother Scotty, who we need to help. I mean, you have the system and everyone out there complaining what they aren't doing when they come home. But when you have all these barriers up, how do you expect someone not to do this or to not do that when you have all these roadblocks up, Mm-hmm. And for myself, Brother Scotty, I know all the barriers and roadblocks well. I did 32 years up inside that place, and coming out hasn't been easy at all. When you're going, you have actual doors slammed in your face, turned down for jobs and everything. They're not looking at what your future and your present is. They just continuously look at your past. And it can reflect something totally different,
Right, defining people by their worst mistakes.
Exactly. That's who they define you as. That's exactly who.
And in a lot of cases, it's not even a mistake, because we know plenty of our people end up in there because they've been set up or entrapped in a situation.
It is not a mistake. It is intentionally done. As I said, it is these corporations out there that are the real cause of this mass incarceration movement. Just like we trying to change the criminal justice system and everything, but they are the ones that's help getting all these different, things implemented into policy and law and the changing of all these different things. It's the corporate world, because they're the ones that are really not even, I'm not just speaking, Scotty, of private prisons. I'm talking about actual state prisons.
Right.
We have these prison industrializations For example, they making license plates is an industry. Bread is an industry. Furniture is one of the main ones. And I don't know if it's New York, but one of the states I was just reading, but Scotty, that they cannot buy the government offered, they cannot buy anything, outside of the DOC.
Right, what's made by the prisoners, office furniture, stuff like that.
By law, the agency has to order it from there. By law. So you see all the attachments, just all the different attachments there, but Scotty.
Yes.
It's like it is just so much, man. Scotty, this is this is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Now, Brother Maxwell, I don't know if you heard about this, but when Bloomberg got into this race trying to buy it, the multi-billionaire former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, but he got busted hiring people to do phone calls. They do phone canvassing and stuff. He hired prisoners, a company that was using prisoners.
Yes, to do the telemarketing and making all these phone calls and different things. Yes, that's who he hired to do that. And that was also cheap labor. That was actually cheap labor. That's exactly what he did. And he said that he had to look into it. He didn't understand, these are excuses. He knows exactly what his organizers exactly what they were doing. They were trying to cut costs and cut cross-paying other ones. So who else do they get to do them? They got incarcerated people. And I can't knock the ones that, are actually doing this and being hired to prisoners in there. They trying to reach out to their family. They need stamps to buy and different things, unfortunately. And, it puts them in a position. But they know where their heart are. The people that's involved with this work, they know where their hearts are. But I'm going to say this, Brother Scotty. There are many organizations out there who claim that they have all the answers. And there's no one particular organization out there that has all those answers, Brother Scotty. No one organization. It has to be through collaboration, organizations coming together for a common cause. Just as one quick example, a lot of blacks don't, whites don't like blacks don't like, racist people, skinheads don't like this. But certain things towards the government sometimes, even though they don't like each other, but for a common cause, there's been groups known to have come together for that common cause. They don't have to like each other, but when there's a common cause there.
Well, we see that with the organizing inside the prison. It's people of all different walks of life, different skin colors, different religions who are organizing on the inside around human rights because they all in the same boat.
There are guys I know who have been killed. When I tell you this, bro, I'm talking about that were killed as a result of them to protect their human rights and that of protection for others. There are people that have sacrificed and lost their lives for us to be where we at today. Those who've come before me, we must remember that we're standing on the backs of giants, on the shoulders of giants. As I said, there have been many who lost their life for this movement throughout the criminal justice system. I know many personally who have sacrificed their lives and were beaten to death, or they fell down the steps and,
Right.
And I'm talking about, when I talk about these things, Scotty, I'm not talking about something somebody told me or something I read from a book. I'm telling you what I lived firsthand experience with my own eyes. I lived it. So I am somebody capable and qualified to speak on the subject of it. And another thing I just like to say to our listeners out there, you have to be careful also of some of the organizations out there. They're strictly into it for a profit. They're not into it. They claim to be there, Brother Scotty, for the cause, but they're not really there for the cause. They're not genuine. They're not authentic.
Actually, Brother Maxwell, a quick story about that. And this person, as a result of me calling him out, you know, and he was on. We were interviewing him on New Abolitionist Radio. He was a former prisoner, and he started a nonprofit to help prisoners reintegrate. But then he was for the drug war. He was pro drug war, and I was like, how can you be pro drug war and getting people locked up for being addicted to drugs or even selling, you know, drugs because of a means of survival? How can you support that? And you're profiting from that. So it you know, that's why you don't want the drug war. And I was straight up with the brother, and I told him this is what's called the nonprofit industrial complex. We ain't really trying to stop, you know, or change the system. We just trying to make money from it. You know, and so, but as a result of me being upfront and frank with the brother, I wasn't disrespectful. I was just, you know, being honest with him from my point of view. And he came around months later and said that we were right. You know, and he looked at it totally different. But you know, as we get ready to run out of time, I got to share this. You know, again. I support Bernie Sanders. The reason I support Bernie Sanders first and foremost is this prisoner bill of rights. You know, also I like the Medicare for all, even though I have free health care and don't have to pay for my prescription drugs through the VA. But I'm not in this for myself. I'm in it for everybody that needs medical care or whatnot. I think everybody should have the opportunity to go to college tuition free. I don't think only people with money should be able to go to school. But the number one reason I'm supporting him is the prisoner bill of rights. Now, I'm not telling anybody who to vote for, but I'm telling you, if you're going to vote, which you should, you need to look at their platform. And I hold this prisoner bill of rights as the gold standard. So I'm going to just read these off real quick. If they ain't talking about this, then they ain't talking about nothing. They falling way short. So this is from his website, BernieSanders.com. It's in the criminal justice reform section. It says, as president, Bernie will enact a prisoner bill of rights that guarantees ending solitary confinement. Solitary confinement is a form of torture and unconstitutional, plain and simple. Access to free medical care in prisons and jails, including professional and evidence-based substance abuse and trauma-informed mental health treatment. Incarcerated trans people have access to the health care they need. Access to free educational and vocational training. This includes ending the ban on Pell Grants for all incarcerated people without any exception. A living wage and safe working conditions, including a maximum work hours for all incarcerated people for that labor. That means they won't be able to work you more than 40 hours a week or something like that. And the conditions have to be safe. You know, just like out here in the civilian world, you know, the Labor Department oversees that, or OSHA oversees that. And then you can't be a slave if you're being paid a living wage. Because slaves don't get paid. You know what I'm saying? And definitely the next point, slaves don't have a right to vote. All voting age Americans must have the right and meaningful access to vote, whether they are incarcerated or not. We will re-enfranchise the right to vote to the millions of Americans who have had their vote taken away by a felony conviction. Now, it's good that Virginia, places like New Jersey and Florida, even with those extra conditions put on them, but it's good that people are attacking this and getting bills in place from the state level. But we know that the federal government also is, the executive branch is a bully pulpit, and they control a lot of the money that goes to the prisons and stuff and grants to the state prisons. They just don't, you know, they run the federal prisons, but they also financially support the state prisons. And then you could threaten them and say, if you don't enact these reforms, then you won't get this money. Okay. And then, like we talked about in New Jersey with the governor getting rid of prison gerrymandering, ending prison gerrymandering, ensuring incarcerated people are counted in their communities, not where they are incarcerated. Establishment of an Office of Prisoner Civil Rights and Civil Liberties within the Department of Justice. This will be the first office of its kind, housed in the Department of Justice to investigate civil rights complaints from incarcerated individuals and provide independent oversight to make sure that prisoners are in safe, healthy environments. I mean, if y'all seen some of the videos that come out from inside the prisons, man, you have mold, you have leaky water, busted pipes. I mean, it's just terrible, man.
Remember, Scotty, I've seen these things. Remember, I lived it. I know
yes.
I lived these things,
Also,
and God.
Protection from sexual abuse and harassment, including mandatory federal prosecution of prison staff who engage in such misconduct. I was thinking when you was talking about New Jersey now has to provide the feminine hygiene products to the prisoners. We've seen in a lot of prisons where the male guards will use that to have sex with the females and be like, oh, I'll get you some napkins, but you got to do me. You got to do me one. What you going to give me? So, it's important that these people be prosecuted for their sexual exploitation of prisoners. Access to their families, like Max was talking about, with the video conferencing and how much that costs. Well, he's addressing that. It says access to their families, including unlimited visits, phone calls, and video calls. And last but not least in the Prisoner Bill of Rights, a determination for the most appropriate setting for people with disabilities and safe, accessible conditions for people with disabilities in prisons and jails. And I bet you, Max, a lot of people don't think about that, but if I go in the way my back is and my leg been acting up here lately, man, oh, man, I could be, it could be hell in there, right? So, I just want to tell everybody.
I wanted to add something when you finish. I want to add something, brother.
Okay. So I just want to tell all the prisoners we need to be talking to our families. And all of us on the outside need to be organized around this Bill of Rights. This is 75% of what the prisoners during the prison strike, when they put out a list of demands, that campaign was listening, because we was tweeting at them, we was emailing them, and we was engaging his campaign. And 75% of those demands by prisoners themselves is in this Prisoner Bill of Rights. Come on, y'all. This is historic.
Yes, and I have a personal friend that's he's actually Bernie Sanders' campaign manager here in New Jersey.
Okay.
His name is. We're going to bring him on the show one day. His name is Brother Larry Ham. He works with the People's Progress Organization out of North New Jersey. He is also running against Cory Booker.
Yeah, for the Senate.
Yeah, and his brother name is Brother Larry Ham. He will be running Bernie Sanders' campaign here in New Jersey, and he's been with a strong organization. He's really a grassroots organization, and people in the community who's been out there. He also walks, he walks his too. He walks that walk too. He don't just talk it, he walks it,
Amen.
So,
I've known about Lawrence Ham for years. I subscribe to their newsletter, and like you said, man, he's been out there doing that work for years.
Yes, exactly. And I said he's gonna make it happen for Bernie Sanders in New Jersey. I know that for a fact. And if it can be handled the way that he's going to handle this in New Jersey, it can be handled like that in every other state.
Exactly.
It can be done.
Yes. Maxwell, do you got any final thoughts as we get ready to wrap it up? Any upcoming events you would like to let people know?
Oh, yes. Well, May the 2nd in Kingston, New York, just want to say, again, one of the Die Jim Crow's first albums. One of the first albums is going to be released. It's going to be a free event. I will probably bring it up the next time. I'm just making people. It will be a free event going on in Kingston, New York. Everyone will be welcome to come out to it. It's the release party of B.L. Sherrill, one of the artists and deputy director of Die Jim Crow Records, which is Die Jim Crow Records is the first of its kind in the United States. Brother Scotty, it is a non-profit for currently and formerly incarcerated prisoners. And it's changing the prison narrative through music is what this is about. People telling their own stories, like, in their own words, Nobody else, not the media telling their stories. in their own words. So that's what Jim Crow Records is about. It's talking about the racism in prison. It's talking about the criminal justice system and the disparity and the unfairness of it and human rights. It's talking about all these things. The artists, these are the things that they're talking about, So, again, I will give the date the next time and the address, Brother Scotty, so that they may be able to attend. It's going to be a free event.
And, of course, as we get closer to that date, we will remind the audience. Maybe we can even get some artists that's participating to come on and talk about.
Two of them going to be held. Yeah, they're going to be held. One is going to be held in New York, and one is going to be held in Philadelphia. And as you said, yes, a few of the artists we will be able to bring on to the show. We've had one of them on here already, Brother Scotty. We had B.L. Sherrill on here. I don't know if you recall B.L. Sherrill.
Yeah, I recall. Yeah.
Well, we had her. She's one of the artists, and yes.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to that. Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks again, Maxwell, man. Let us know the moves that's being made up there in New Jersey. That's very, very encouraging, man. And I do see progress. And it may not satisfy all, but we should never be satisfied. We just got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing till we get human rights for all,
Yes, but one of the main bills that we're working on in New Jersey right now is the average person in New Jersey, Brother Scott, after 7 years, you're supposed to be able to put in, right? To be lifers are supposed to be able to put in. There's a process in which you go by. And to be taken off parole, if you've demonstrated to them, they're not following their own policies and procedures. Because when you put in for it, years and years, Brother Scotty, they're not following their own procedures or anything. And we trying to get it where if you've been on parole, been home for more than 10 years, right? Not even the 7 years that it is, 10 years without incident, that you should be able to come off parole.
Okay.
That is one of the things, the most important things. The many, many lifers, Brother Scotty, that is important. And the lifers actually have a banquet every year. And when that time comes, most are welcome to come out and, speak with the lifers individually. They'll see that we have our own community. These are all brothers that were in the system at one time or another. And I will probably be doing a sidebar on it, Brother Scotty. Having somebody to film it, for you.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely looking forward to that. Well, I want to thank everyone again for tuning in to New Abolitionist Radio with myself, Scotty Reed, and Max Melvins with the Lifer Group and the Jim Crow Project. We're on air every Sunday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. You can also check out our archive of our podcast. This one will be posted in a couple of hours. And share it with others. Share this information with people. Let's organize around these issues, people, because ain't nobody going to do it but us. And like Frederick Douglass said, without struggle, there is no progress. The government concedes nothing without a demand, and we demand an end to prison slavery and human rights for the incarcerated. With that said, peace and blessing to all. Be safe out there.
Yeah.
Land of the free, it lies the home of the homeless. Too many die every day, and we really just want this freedom.